Hey, it's Sifa. I wanted to say that I'm sorry I haven't been making videos because I lost the cord to my camera and I really didn't want to use my iPhone because it's not good quality, but my friend Gregory recommended a app to use. So I'm trying this, hopefully it comes out okay, but I'm holding it with my hand and maybe I'll shaky, so, I'm just gonna try this, whatever. This video is going to be about Siffa and Antonia, my little inner personalities. They're very common in my poems. So people are always asking, like, what's up with Siffa? What's up with Antonia? Who are these people? What do they do? So this is about who they are and what they represent to me. And some people think that it's like a multiple personality kind of thing, but I really don't think it is. I think it's more of like a representation of different parts of my soul. And I know that's kind of weird, but that's what I have determined that it is. So I'm going to start off with how they came to be and how they arrived in this world. Well, Siffa is first, and I call her like Little Siffa so people don't get her mixed up with me, or I try to, but because she started out as a character like in stories that I would write when I was little. Like I would just write stories, and she would be like one of my main characters. And then when I was like 13, I became obsessed with the idea of like adopting all these children. At one point, like, I thought that when I grew up, I would, like, adopt all these children, and, I'd be, like, an amazing mom, and they would all be, like, crazy and, like, awesome. And I would, like, help them, get over their psychological problems and stuff. And, so Siffa was my first child. And she was going to be, like, the main child. And, like, so yeah, she was going to be my first child. And then it kind of evolved into this thing where I would like write poetry about her all the time. And in the poems, she was always like this sad little girl, like maybe 5 or 6 years old, and always crying. And she was always wearing like a beautiful white gown. And she was always barefoot and in this like dirty hole in the ground and just crying nonstop. And I would always write about like how much I loved her and how much I wanted to make her happy and I never could. And it just really, it felt like, like I couldn't do anything for her and I felt hopeless and helpless because I couldn't make her happy. And I think that's kind of a representation of like that I couldn't take care of myself at that time. I was like hurting myself and doing all these terrible things to myself and I felt like, I was hurting my inner child. So and then what happened is Antonia came next. And this is whenever I began to learn in psychology about the Freudian theory of the personality and the unconscious mind. And so, if you know anything about that, Sifa represents like my superego very roughly, not spot on. And so I had to have an id. Okay, the id is like the kind of not evil, but like the animalistic, angry, animalistic urges, primal part of you. And so that was Antonia, and she was the one that like kind of egged me on to do bad things, and she was like and I would kind of like try to like harness her powers to become more like anorexic and hurt myself more and stuff. And she was like she looked like she was slightly older, maybe 8 or 9 years old, and she lived in a cage next to Sifa, this dirty like rusted cage. And all that she would do was like scream, like her lungs, just scream her lungs out until they were like bloody. And she would just claw at her skin and claw at herself and like claw at her cage. And she was just like this like primal anger and just like fury. And so I would try to kind of like use her to do bad things. So that's what Siffa and Antonia are. And I just wrote a lot about them. I wrote a lot of poems about them. I can post more if you guys want me to about them. So what basically happened is like I was meditating earlier this year and doing some shamanism work, like going to the spirit, into my soul, like into a spirit world kind of. And I ended up finding Siffa and Antonia there, and I was like, what are you guys doing here? I've never, it was weird. It was like I was seeing them in person, Like I wasn't just imagining them, it was like they were really there, like in the spirit world. And I wrote a poem about it. It's on my YouTube. I think it's called, shit, I don't know what it's called, but I'll put it up, about how I healed them. And through meditation and shamanism, I healed Siffa and Antonia. And now they're just like normal little girls. And whenever I go into the spirit world and like meditate, I see them there and they're just happy, normal little girls. And it's crazy because like it's like I healed them, you know, like part of myself, and it's like been part of my recovery is healing Siffa and Antonia. But anyway, that's just a little bit about them. You know, if you have any questions, ask me. If you have any like multiple personalities, you know, tell me about that. Or if you have anything similar to what I have, tell me about that. Okay, so you guys have a good night. Bye.